Hi everyone, welcome to this week's True Potential Do More With Your Money podcast. Now, they say that you shouldn't believe everything you read in the newspapers, but what about social media, and especially when it comes to money? Well, that's the topic of our discussion on the podcast this week, and to do that, I'm joined by Luke McGrath, Head of Marketing here at True Potential. In the middle, we've got Tom Robertshaw, Financial Advisor at True Potential, and at the very end of the table, Martin Taylor, who goes by the quite fancy title of Head of File Checking, which I think is one of those titles, Martin, that means a lot to us at True Potential, but might not mean that much to somebody watching the podcast. So when you're checking a file, what are you looking for?
We're essentially looking to make sure the advisors have done it correctly, so that's why Tom is not particularly happy with us. It's not so glamorous as you would like to think, because we're the bad guys having to say, sorry, we've got to fail your case this time.
Yeah.
But we do get to pass some of them as well, though, so that's always nice.
Pass mine.
I'll pass yours.
I was going to ask, is Tom normally well behaved, or
I personally
do you have a little red mark on Tom's?
He's got the thumbs up from me.
That's very
He's
good.
one of the good ones.
I used to be a file checker back in the day.
Well, then you know the tricks, then, don't you? Brilliant. Excellent. Okay, right. So, social media. Reason we were going to talk about this week is there's a lot been in the news lately, and even more so if you just go on to whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok particularly, an awful lot of people out there giving what they're purporting to be as financial advice, or at least their opinions and their experiences. Lots of money things you can get out there. It's a bit like in the health space. You see lots of people giving tips on how to get fit and how to do this and how to do that. And I've noticed a big upsurge in the last certainly in the last year or so, just doing a search myself. But I wanted to talk today about, from a client point of view, or somebody who's comes across this stuff, what should they be looking out for to think, is this genuine, proper advice, or is this just someone's experience, or frankly a little bit of stuff just to get clicks? So Luke, we've drafted you in because you're head of marketing here at TP. So just tell us a bit about the kind of social media operation that we have here, and then if you will, maybe just talk about how it contrasts with some of the stuff that you see online.
Yeah, so it's kind of good that we've started a conversation already with Martin here, because much like the advice Tom gives, our social media, being a True Potential, is subject to checking, compliance rules, reviews, etc. So that you can be really assured that whenever you look at something that we've put out, it's been through those really rigorous processes. Mm-hmm. We have to make sure it's clear, fair, not misleading.
Yeah.
A lot of very technical rules that I'll not bore the audience with now, but it goes through a lot of reviews before it actually appears on our social.
Yeah.
Now, compare that to an influencer who's unregulated. Let's say you can just open a TikTok account, an Instagram account today, and just start saying what they want. And I think that's the key difference. It's really understanding where has that information come from in the first place.
Yeah. And Tom, I noticed we did some statistics ourselves here. As part of our savings gap campaign, we work with YouGov, very established and reputable polling company, and we asked them to go off and speak to the public and see how many people are exposed, or how many people have been exposed to this sort of thing, to these Finfluencers. And it turns out that nearly 1 in 10 people admitted that they've taken a financial decision based on something they've just seen on social media. And it's even higher, as you might expect, in those younger age groups. If you're, say, 16 to 24, the number's more like 2 in 10 are taking decisions. When you talk to clients who may well be older, to be fair, are they aware of this stuff, or do you think it's much more of a younger person's issue?
It's definitely much more of a younger person's issue, I think. Especially, Instagram and TikTok are probably the main two where they can, influence people in quite a bad way, to be honest. And I think one of the biggest problems really that we have is, our generation particularly want to get rich quick. And unfortunately, that means that these Finfluencers are using products such as foreign exchange trading, or forex as they call it, or cryptocurrencies, and then they'll say stuff such as we have AI trading bots which guarantees you returns. And the majority of the time when you look at some of these people, what they're trying to do is push trading programs out there to show you how to do this sort of stuff, but it actually doesn't, the majority of the time work. Yeah. And these products are such high risk products and very, very volatile. They should be really left to people who've done, a lot of exams essentially to get to that to get that point of actually using, foreign exchange trading and stuff like that. So it's really difficult to do, and it's very misleading, unfortunately. And like Luke quite rightly pointed out, cryptocurrency and foreign exchange trading, some of these markets are not regulated, so you've got to be really careful. You don't have that protection in place, which I'm sure Martin will come on to in a second.
Before we bring Martin in, I mean, just if you like to play devil's advocate, I mean, there genuinely are people who've made a lot of money off things like crypto and all this. I mean, are we right to, if you like, not take it seriously and look down our nose a little bit at it, or is there a place for people who've had a good personal experience and just want to share that?
I don't think you should look down on it, because I think we should be encouraging youngsters to try and look into investing and look at how to make money long term. And looking down on it is not the right thing to do. They're being influenced by people who they trust. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the wrong person. I think one of the biggest things, and something that you've been doing work on, is we really need to get some sort of financial education at schools. More importantly, I think that would be a real good way of helping the younger generation actually understand investments a little bit more and not be as easily influenced by these people on TikTok and Instagram who are not regulated individuals.
And we'll come on shortly to talk about, two things. One, about what we're doing in schools to try and combat some of this stuff, but also, what people can look out for to check whether they're actually getting proper advice, regulated advice, versus just say someone's opinion. But I mean, it's Martin, in your experience, do you see a lot of this just when you're personally on social media? Do you I mean, algorithms are very clever. They've probably worked out that you work in financial services. Do you find you see a lot of this stuff? And also, just to the point we were making there with Tom, has it in any way, do you think, helped encourage a conversation around money in this country? Because we're not very good in Britain about talking about our money. It's one of those things that we tend to keep quite private. So do you think that maybe there is a space on social media for just, or maybe we should give it at least some credit for having, started a conversation around money?
Absolutely. I think the reason why we're seeing more Finfluencers is because it is becoming more popular, and I think social media is a really good medium to attract younger people to get interested in that. And obviously you have those risks, which are unregulated persons popping up with ads or even friend requests and such into Instagram. So the Forex traders that Tom mentioned there, I'll get those friend requests on Instagram, but you can see straight away, as Luke mentioned, they're not really following the financial promotions rules, which is essentially making sure that it's not misleading, it's clear and fair, because it's someone in Dubai next to a Ferrari with the sunglasses on, and immediate that's like, oh, come and do Forex and you can have all of this. So in terms of that, it's a risk for the clients, because they think, oh well, I'll do that and I'll get the same. But in reality, this is a person who hasn't completed the exams, which Tom and I know are difficult to do. They're very intense and very technical, but then also actually being certified within a wealth management firm and featuring on the FCA register. Again, the sort of hoops that we need to jump through to maintain that authorization, we have to show that knowledge so that we can issue those financial promotions, because we know what we're talking about. Whereas these people are simply unregulated and may not know the ISA from their elbow or anything such as that. So it is a risk.
Nicely put, Martin. That was very good. I like that one.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
It's why the FCA have come out with a lot more guidance on financial promotions on social media towards the end of 2023, which they're trying to tackle this, but the more it gets bigger and bigger, the more issues we're going to see.
I hope you've written that one down, Luke. That sounds like a good marketing campaign. Do you know your ISA from your elbow?
It does. I'm into marketing for tips on that.
Yes, absolutely. So just coming across then to you from a marketing point of view. So when you see some of these videos, I'm thinking TikTok in particular, but there are others as well. What are some of the giveaways that this is somebody who's trying to persuade you that you should do what they've done? I mean, Martin's touched on a few little bits of tricks that they do there, but what are some of the telltale signs that this might be more about persuading me than actually giving me genuine advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think a real acid test is always the good old, does this sound too good to be true? Because it probably is too good to be true. And they'll make very big, bold claims because they're trying to catch people's attention.
Yeah.
They're in a social media kind of feed there where they're trying to break someone's attention and say, right, watch me. And in order to do that, they need to be bold, they need to be big, they need to make big promises. So as Martin's talking about there, some of the things might be their surroundings look particularly impressive. They're standing next to a Ferrari. Now, we can all just go and stand in a Ferrari garage, quickly film a video and get that out.
Yeah.
There's no trust there.
You don't know it's
really
their Ferrari.
Yeah. Exactly that. So if it seems too good to be true, probably is. Secondly, a real someone who's got the qualifications, someone's working for a firm who's on the register, will be sharing those details on the advert. So you'll see with all of our posts, whether on social or anywhere else, they reference our FCA number. So someone watching that can go to the FCA register and check that we are who we say we are. We've got those qualifications. And I think probably the third thing is they'll be balanced as well. So it's really important, as Martin and Tom will know, you have to balance your claims of positivity against potential risks. So familiar things to us, capital at risk. Investments can fluctuate in value. You have to show that side of an investment as well as the positive side. And typically on a TikTok or a Ferrari post, you won't be seeing that. It will be guaranteed returns, I think, as Tom said, quick and easy ways to make money.
Well, tell us a bit more then about how your team does this professionally here, because we understand that people don't want to see a 20-minute video with all sorts of risk warnings when it really, they might just want to know, what should I be putting my money in today? Now, investing isn't as simple as that. It is complicated, and therefore it does need a bit more time. But how do you and your team strike the balance between something which is short, sweet, to the point, that's going to catch people's attention, but doing it in a way that's responsible? How do you do it?
Yeah, that's the skill in it, really. And this is why it takes that kind of level of training and consistency to do this well. But I think having that balance is really just about honesty and transparency with your audience. So you need to weave these things into your conversations to say, look, here's the information. I'm giving it to you in a balanced manner. Here are the potential benefits, here are the potential drawbacks. And because it's on social media, you sort of lose that control of where that goes and who then shares it on. But if your sort of ask at the end is come speak to us, you've got that added safety. So you're not telling someone from a tweet or an Instagram post to go and do something. Actually, you're just informing them, giving a little bit of balance, and then saying, right, your next steps would be to come talk to someone qualified.
Martin, isn't part of the problem we've got, though, that in Britain, there's only about 8% of people have a financial advisor or use a financial advisor. Now, that's partly maybe an awareness thing, but it's also because there aren't enough financial advisors to service everybody who might want one. So in that 92% gap, people who perhaps would benefit from financial advice but can't find an advisor, can't afford one, or just haven't thought about getting one. Is that where these influencers are just playing right into? There's a need for, I think Tom said at the start, people want to make money, they want to improve their and their family's wealth. Why wouldn't you? Perfectly natural. But they're not quite sure where to go for advice. Is that what's driving this, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think because there's not so few financial advisors, there are less and less each day. I think there's the average age of a financial advisor is now 60.
Yeah.
So a lot of those advisors are looking at retirement and sort of getting out of the industry, which leaves the advice gap. And obviously it's a case of how can that be filled? Well, the Finfluencers have clearly seen this as an opportunity to come in and say, you should do this. But again, they're people who haven't followed the steps of the FCA in order to actually become approved people to give that advice.
What do they stand to gain? Because it's not like they're selling a product necessarily that they own, where they're going to make money out of selling their product. They're really just pushing people towards other products. So what does a Finfluencer stand to gain from doing it?
I think notoriety, fame, because again, if they happen to deliver on something that gives those returns to a client, it then spreads across social media and becomes viral, which then more and more people are following that person and saying, oh, well, they must know what they're talking about because they've got returns.
Or they might have a financial relationship with the person whose product it is, who could be...
The other thing is these training programs, a lot of them have, especially Forex traders, they have these trading programs that they sell, that's the part that they sell, and they'll say that by using that trading program, you will guaranteed to be, get rich. And obviously, unfortunately, most of the time that isn't the case. And I think that's the product that they're really pushing. But, Martin was alluding to there about, financial advisors, the average age is 60. There's less than, of those advised that they are in the country, less than 6% are under 30.
Yeah. Are you in that 6%?
I am.
No,
Yes, I am. Just.
Good. We need more of you.
But that is part of the problem, because if you think about the average age of these, Finfluencers, they're all quite young people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the message that I would be pushing would be quite a boring one, which is, invest regularly, put into tax efficient products and do it over a long-term period.
Yeah.
But that doesn't catch the attention of the audience, unfortunately, because people are wanting to try and get rich quick and get all of these.
But I think it's right. Financial advice isn't something that you should be able to do in 90 seconds. I mean, it can't be personalised. It can't be taking account of somebody's full circumstances if you can do it in that quick. And I'm not here to defend the Finfluencers at all. I mean, the whole point of this podcast is to really expose, if you like, what it's not, and it is not financial advice. It might be opinion, it might be good opinion, it might be anecdotal, it might be something which worked for them, but it's not financial advice. And there is a very clear way to know whether what you're watching is financial advice. Luke's talked about some of the sort of risk warnings and approved by the FCA that you'd have to see on that. But also there are, estimates between say 20 and 25,000 advisors in the country, of which you're one. The only people who can be giving you financial advice are those people, because they're the only ones qualified to do it. And your material, our material at True Potential will say approved by the Financial Conduct Authority, regulated by the financial. So that's a really telltale way to know, am I getting actual financial advice, or is this just someone's opinion and an anecdote?
Yeah, I was going to say, and also in terms of financial advice, you have to have, go through certain stages of the advice process to actually get advice. So if you're just saying something in front of a camera, that's not advice. You've got to you've got to go through the fact finding process. You've got to deliver a suitability report. You've also got to go through annual reviews if they want the ongoing service as well. And the client's got to agree to all of that. So there's a proper advice process in place to actually show that you've actually had advice.
And also before even that stage, I mean, tell us a bit about, for our audience, before you became a qualified financial advisor, what did you have to go through? What sort of exams are there? Tell us a bit about it that these guys on social media aren't doing.
Yeah, so obviously myself and Martin, there's two different routes of doing it, but there's CII and there's the LIBF way of doing it, and essentially you've got to do a load of exams, which is 6 for myself, and then after you've done those exams, you then become level 4 qualified. You can then go on and do some more if you wanted to, so I've done I think about 10 more afterwards, which is not very nice at all. But that gets you to a different level, which is like chartered status, and then after that point you can do other exams as well on top of that, like trust exams and coaching exams. There's all sorts of different exams you can do, and it's a real good thing. I think the younger advisors that are out there are really do it. It's great to see in the industry now about the younger advisors doing more and more exams and trying to get themselves more qualified, which is a really good thing. But it's a lot of hard work.
What do you think, Martin, our industry can do if somebody's, I don't know, maybe in their early 20s and thinking, I really want a career in financial services as a financial advisor? What can our industry do? Because if you look at, say, to use the classic example we've talked about, someone sitting next to a Ferrari with the sunglasses on in a lovely hot place looking really cool, that looks really attractive as a career. Well, I could make money out of that. Tom has described how tricky it is to become a regulated advisor, but it's the right way to do it.
Yeah,
how can our industry make that look, because you're right, only 6% of advisors in the UK are under the age of 30, so we clearly as an industry have a problem of getting people to come in. What can we do about that?
I think the route itself through the level 4 diplomas is obviously the way to do it, but I think first and foremost that needs more exposure. It's the sort of qualification I wasn't aware of until I just started my career here at True Potential, and it was probably the same for you as well, Tom. So I think it's something that needs more exposure to younger people. So instead of going to university, you could look to sit this diploma and have a career in financial services. And one of the fantastic things we're doing in-house is the TP Academy, where we currently have about 60 members of staff who are training for the level 4 diploma right now in order to come and fill roles like the one that Tom has, work on the case checking team with myself. But then also it means that we can help support clients in that way, and then obviously through social media of True Potential we can say come to us for financial advice, obviously through the correct channels and all signed off appropriately to give that information, but to give that support. So that's how I think the FCA or the government could look to essentially give people more information, much like what we're doing in schools at the minute as well.
I mean, there's also a point that a regulated financial advisor like you can have a very long and successful career ahead of them. Whereas, TikTok, maybe we've already passed that tipping point. People are going to become aware that, hang on, this, as you said, looks a bit too good to be true. Can I make a career out of that? Are people going to take this seriously? Are they going to really buy into that? How am I going to make money off that? And sooner or later, people are going to realise it's not advice, it's just opinion, as we've said. So, the difference is that's a fad, that stuff, and with some dangers attached to it. But what you're doing is a career that will stand you in very good stead.
Yeah, and I think if you look at like some of them Finfluencers as well, they're trying to get rich quick because they probably know deep down that the regulator is going to come in for it, which is what we're starting to see now. But it's one of those where I think anybody who's interested in finance, and there is younger people who are thinking about doing it, it's a really, really good career to do. And And we're very lucky at True Potential that we have other people around us. We've got training from other wealth management partners, such as Paul Taylor, coming in and helping the rest of us when we're still learning, because it does take it. You're constantly learning in this job, and that's the key thing.
Well, I think you mentioned the academy. That's a really good point. That people are looking to. I mean, we've got lots of people here who've started off in different roles and thought, I fancy myself as a financial advisor, and we've put them through the courses, we've trained them, put them in the academy, and then are fully fledged, qualified, regulated financial advisors. So there's plenty of ways to get in, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I was in marketing under Luke.
I was going to say, Tom's a great example.
And then Martin at one point as well.
Yeah.
Learned everything from us, Luke. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
That's where you start. I should point out that careers in marketing are available as well. As much as Tom's talked up the other routes.
Yeah, and who knows where they might lead. Yeah. Do you think Luke, just putting your marketing sort of perspective on again, I mean, do you think have we passed that tipping point? Do you think we're a bit, are we over the hill now of people understanding that this stuff might be entertaining but it's not real?
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of surveys out relatively recently, I'm talking the last couple of weeks, that seem to suggest that the trend here is starting to reverse. So The Drum, which is a big marketing publication, they did a survey, and coming out, almost 90% of people said they didn't trust influencers. And that's for the reasons we've discussed. They can see that someone's being paid to promote something. And it's the same in financial services more specifically. There was a survey recently which said about 81% of people think that it's crucial to get financial advice from an expert. So I do think there are signs of this trend reversing itself. I think that's probably this bubble that we've talked about as well, of the influencer who exists to be an influencer. There's always been influencers, kind of throughout marketing, but they tend to get in a position of some credibility and then lend their influence to a company. I think it's this bubble that we're seeing now of people who've built an audience just to sell to that audience. That's probably where people are getting savvy to it.
And do you see the synergy between, say, that and what you see in the fitness and the health space, which is people, doing videos saying, well, here's how I lost 2 stone in like a fortnight, which cannot be good for anybody. And you think, well, that's not proper nutrition or medical advice. That's just someone's opinion, which might not even be real. And if it is, it might have worked for you, but there's no guarantee that's going to work for anybody else. Do you see that? Do you see a synergy there? Are health and finance the 2 biggest sectors for this kind of social media stuff?
Yeah, they seem to be, don't they? And I think the danger there is they're probably 2 of the riskiest things to take bad advice from. To a certain extent, there's no real danger in someone promoting a brand of tea, for example, but someone giving you a health plan or financial plan with no experience or qualification to do so could have some real serious consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about what we're doing to try to help with some of this. I mean, obviously you've talked about the professional side of how we do it, but also we're out in schools. So we have a campaign called On the Money, which is over 150 of our advisors. These are the people like Tom, properly qualified, regulated advisors across the country, going into schools free, volunteering their time, and teaching young people sort of around age 15, 16 years old about finance, about how to budget, about the difference between good debt and bad debt, because not all debt's bad, how to save, how to do a household budget when you're starting, to get an income coming in through a job or however else it might be, and how you can do some of that stuff. That's the beginnings of a solution, isn't it, somewhere down the line?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, again, people just need to know more about what's going on, and starting off at a younger age is absolutely the way to do it. Again, even when we were in school, it was never the sort of thing we were taught about. When it came to me and my wife getting a mortgage, we both didn't have a clue. And luckily, my brother was a mortgage advisor, so I was able to go to him for guidance. But again, you would think you're essentially being kicked out of school into the big wide world. If you don't know how these important things work, then you're immediately on the back foot. Whereas having that little head start and knowing what you're doing when you are making an income, instead of thinking, I'm gonna splash the cash and whatever, you think, actually, you know what, I will put it away in an ISA for savings, and think of a long-term future, as opposed to the get-rich-quick things that you do see on TikTok.
Was that your experience? I mean, were you taught any money kind of stuff at school?
I wasn't taught anything to do with money at school, unfortunately. And I think it would be really good for the UK as a whole, to be honest, because if you understand money a little bit more, you're probably more likely to set up businesses and stuff like that. So I think it would really benefit the economy as a whole, and that's why I'm surprised there's not been any sort of more initiatives on this to try and push it a bit more, apart from the one that.
I mean, there are some schools do it a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's really piecemeal, and it's very, very postcode lottery type stuff about whether you get any of it in school or not. So that's why we're stepping in. I mean, we're just beginning that, so we're scratching the surface. Hopefully we'll do even more, but we're doing our bit. We're trying to do our bit. We probably reckon about 30 to 40,000 students will have benefited across the country from this campaign that we're doing. So, it's not insignificant, and we're very proud of it. But there's a long way to go, isn't there, Luke, for this sort of stuff? And it is odd still that this stuff isn't just taught routinely in school, especially when you think that people leave school at, say, 16 or 18 years old. For a lot of them, not everyone, a lot will go into university, where one of the first things that happens is you get a student loan, a lot of money. You've got to manage then student fees that then you've got to pay back later. So when you then graduate into a job, a lot of your money is going to be paying off loans and fees. And again, if people knew a bit of investing advice, a bit of financial advice, they might think about putting some money into an investment that could then grow and help pay down that debt. But we send them out at the age of 18 into the wide world, as you said, without any of that knowledge at all.
No, I think so. And I think you hear stories, don't you, of people getting their first paycheck and suddenly realising it doesn't quite add up to what they thought it was because they've got that student debt. They haven't perhaps been told what income tax is. On a more positive side, we now have auto-enrolment. But again, if your first experience of that is it coming off your paycheck, that can feel a little bit negative if you're not aware of, actually, here's the positive reasons to start a pension early on. So I think there's a bit of a battle here because these Finfluencers are still pumping out that content. Whether it's right or wrong depends on the individual. But can more organisations like us put the correct content out there, put that education out there at the right time, in the right place, in the right format as well?
Yeah. Well, I'll give a quick plug to our friends at the Open University as well, who we've got a long-standing 10-year relationship with. And you can access them through our website, which I'll let you give in a second, Luke, because you run it. There are free courses, free modules on there that you can do. I'll give you an example of one. It's called Managing My Money. It does exactly what it says on the tin. You can get in there and learn about personal budgeting, and then there are others around investing. So I'd certainly recommend doing those courses. Absolutely free. Do them at your own pace. And our website link, if people want to go and find them?
truepotential.co.uk.
Very well done. Right, to finish with then. So I'll ask you in a second about advertising and how people can tell whether something's a legitimate ad or has been approved. If people want financial advice, if I came across your name, someone mentioned you, and I went to your website, how would I know that you're an FCA regulated advisor versus just someone from down the road giving me their own experience? How would I know that?
You can look up on the FCA directory, essentially, and you can search for any person on there. It's actually a really good website now. It's just been updated about 2 years ago, was it?
Yeah,
2 or 3
quite
years ago?
recently, yeah.
You can search on there. Each advisor will have an individual reference number as well, and you can see the firm that they're attached to.
Yeah, so the FCA reg is a good place to go to check whether this person's regulated. And in terms of adverts, you said it at the start, but if I see a social media post, I think, is that a proper regulated firm? How will I know?
Yeah, the firm will have to disclose who they are. So there'll be the name, in our case, True Potential, and they'll have that FCA number as well that Tom talked about, so that you can go directly from the ad to check out where it's come from.
Brilliant, and that's what we should look out for. Right, good. Well, thank you very much, Martin. Good luck with checking more files today.
Thank you.
I'll let you get back to that.
I'll try.
Thanks also, Tom and Luke as well. I hope that's been useful. I'm sure it will be, because there was a lot of this stuff about, so a good way and some good advice there and some good tips on how to distinguish between what's real and what might not be quite so real. But for now, thank you very much for watching. And speaking about social media, do please give us a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. We'd really appreciate that. And until the next time, bye for now.